Morning, everyone. It's Saturday, and if you're not out shopping or having brunch or what have you, and you happen to be on LinkedIn joining us, thank you. As usual, I'll wait for a minute or so, before people come on board. And of course, if you are not watching this live, hopefully you're watching this as it's pre-recorded. I'll introduce my guest in just a moment. Again, last week I had a conversation with a friend in Singapore as well. So my guest is also from Singapore. Last week I was in Sarawak and I had very bad connection. So it's the island of Borneo. It could be the reason why we were a bit bad. But now I'm back in Kuala Lumpur. Yep. So I'm going to introduce Manoj in just a moment and what we're doing here today. For those, so I think like one of we're talking about how to create a sustainable workforce, and Manoj and I were having a conversation earlier about this, and we'll share our thoughts and observations in just a moment. But the word innovation, right? Has the word innovation been bandied around too much, right? Are we almost like not paying attention to what? And we hear of organizations having to be innovative to be relevant, and we know it's important, but really is enough done? And why is innovation important for the individual and the organization? So I'm here with Manoj Menon from Twinbit, and I'm going to get his thoughts on what this will entail. So good morning, Manoj.
Hey, good morning, Frida. Thank you very much for bringing me onto your show.
How,
It's a real pleasure, really.
how's the weather down south?
Oh, it is a little cloudy, so
Okay.
I'll hopefully go for a run midday. I can do that when it is cloudy.
Midday, okay. I will do my evening if that's the case. Anyway, we're here, and of course, as we're having a conversation, you have any thoughts or whatever, feel free to put that in as well. So I'm very interested. I know, Manoj, your background for a long time was with Frost, and I've spoken to you before as well. And but right now with Twinbit, I was reading your website. Your company is an innovation platform to help executives and teams be future ready. What do you mean future ready? Firstly.
I think a great point. So it all started with just even my self-realization. I spent 22 years in Frost and Sullivan, and it's quite happy. It was my first job. I was almost the first employee in Asia. Uh,
Right.
the company made me feel I owned the company. Uh, there's no reason to complain. I grew with the company. We established offices across 13, 14 countries, and it was a fabulous ride, right? Then there came to be a point in which I started asking myself, am I learning enough? Am I growing fast enough? Is this how I want to, finish my entire career? Right?
Mm,
And that's when and one of the things I would tell people in Frost and Sullivan, because we're a consulting company,
right.
every day is a new project.
Right.
There is no shortage of learning. I would tell, oh, we are on the job learning. What more can you learn, right? And that really got me, worried at that stage. Said, how do I become better? How do
Mm,
I be relevant?
mm.
So that's how we formed Twimbit. Twimbit is actually an acronym for the world is moved by ideas and technology.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you said innovation platform because the challenge is just like me, about 1 billion people are going to see their work, the nature of their work being transformed in the next 10 years.
Right.
So how you will, and your work itself has changed, Frida.
Yeah.
Look at how you are communicating through so many different platforms today.
Right. Right.
So how do we make sure? So if 1 billion people that's gonna change, they got to learn new skills. They got to be prepared with a better context. Otherwise, they will lose their jobs. Companies will shut down, and
Hmm.
that's why this platform to help people prepare for that future. So
Right.
to be relevant and do their jobs better.
Right. Okay. So we talk about innovation, right? And I'm saying that innovation is this big word, right? And why is innovation key here? And what does it mean to be innovative, right? We is it a laborious and expensive affair? That's what people always think.
Yeah, it is expensive because it is about changing habits.
Mm,
It's not about technology. It is not. It's about habits. It's if I have to pick up a new habit to become fit,
Right.
It is so laborious on my mind. If I have to pick up a new habit to control my diet, man, it dominates my head
Yes.
24
Yes.
hours a day, right? So I think it is the same thing with innovation.
Right.
If we have to, it is so tough, it is so goddamn tough,
Mm.
and I think, and it is critical, because if we don't do it, companies will
Yeah.
start seeing the decline. Your
Right.
career, you know it, when your salary is not increasing the last 2 3 years,
Mm.
if your salary is growing less than the growth of inflation, which I
Mm.
think would be true for more than 50% of people today, that
Right.
means you are not innovative. So it is laborious, it is tough. Now what do people do? We all do incremental innovation, and
Mm.
maybe that is enough for most cases, which is, oh, I will improve 5% every year. But the way the technology is improving at 150% every
Right.
year,
Right.
so then how will you be competitive? How will you be relevant? So we have to learn to work with machines and use machines more effectively, and that
Right.
is what this innovation conundrum is currently.
Right. Okay. And so obviously, so then what does your company do? Because and you're right, right? We've seen companies disappear, right? And usually it's not an overnight affair, right? It's like suddenly, oh my goodness, we are, we've this the Kodak, the Nokia's, the kind of story, right? What are the signs to look out for in an organization when they come to you, right? Usually, at what stage are they at? Are they sort of aware?
I think most people are now, I think the last 3 4 years, almost everybody is aware that they are in a challenging situation.
Mm.
And you said, oh, what are the signs that you are not growing or not innovating? It's your revenue is not growing. Yeah?
Right.
Your revenue growth is slower than the overall growth of the industry. Your
Right.
margins are under pressure.
Mm.
All of these are signs that you are aging and your output is declining. Right? So I think those are warning signs. And then people come, and good news is, across the board now, nobody is questioning that I need to transform, I need to do
Right.
things. Now it is about how is the best way to do it. So yeah, so what do we do, right?
Mm.
We I spent 22 plus years in research.
Mm.
I believe research is the most powerful tool. There is a lot of knowledge out there, but how do I make it easy? You and I enjoy spending time on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, but when it comes to reading a piece of research content which will help us do our job better, we fall asleep. uh, it is not personalized around us. So
Right.
we want to build that research platform where you will have joy in consuming research, and
Right.
you will grow your career with it. Yeah,
Right.
that is our long term vision.
Right.
Yeah, and to begin with, I'm doing it for organizations,
Right.
building and saying, hey, let's take teams of people,
Mm.
aspiring leaders, salespeople, strategic planning people, and help them learn and grow faster and be the best they can be.
Right. And so what you're trying to do is also, in a way, creating culture, uh, innovation as a culture
Correct.
in an organization.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Satya Nadella. He
Mm.
says, he has moved Microsoft from a
Yeah.
know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture, right?
Right.
So, if I think one of the things you said you wanted to ask me was, if we had to replace the word innovation with something, what would that
Mm.
word be? I
Mm.
think it should be learning.
Right.
That hunger to learn. If we can do that, that would be pretty cool.
Mm. And okay, so this learning, right? I just want to bring this up though. Is the learning within the organization? The learning can be outside the organization. Uh, that who is that
Mm.
onus on?
Yeah. So, we cannot, you can show survey after survey. Companies invest a lot of money in learning
Mm.
and development.
Mm.
But you ask anybody, have you learned? Have you become better? You know, Unfortunately, only 12% of corporate learning and development is a global statistic. Only 12% of money spent on corporate learning and development is effective,
Right.
because the problem is, it is designed around maybe what the organization needs. I cannot apply it immediately. I cannot use it tomorrow in my work. There is something that they're throwing at me. It is not built around me.
Right.
And what is most important, the one of the biggest mega trends of this decade is the rise of the individual. The individual is got so much power now. He wants to
Mm,
communicate. He wants to
mm,
decide how he will work, where he will work from. So I think it starts with us. We got
mm,
to decide.
mm,
And if we have to do it right, then you start with him and then you support and find out my purpose in the team, my purpose related to the organization, and
mm.
then build that personalized learning journey for each individual.
Right.
That should be the nirvana, but it's obviously easy to say, so hard to do.
Right. So what you're trying to do with your platform is to convert the 88% that is to
Yeah.
make
Uh,
yeah.
we want to make it more effective. We want
Mm,
you to, there is a lot of different kinds of learning. There is learning on, how do I do coding better, or how
mm,
do I do a
right.
better podcaster, or how do I do,
Mm,
a better, be a better cook. I'm not addressing that. I am providing insights and learning around the future of industries, technologies, and business models. So, hey, how is the future of banking? And if I'm going to
mm,
build my career in banking, how do I relate to that future? How do I contribute to that future? How do I make sure I'm effective in that new future? Yeah?
right.
If I'm in the telecoms industry, I know that I need to build revenue streams beyond serving mobile data.
Right.
And how am I relevant and how am I contributing to becoming a better data scientist or using data to create new services? So we are building that contextual knowledge around future of industries, technologies, and business models. So
Right.
we are taking one element of that overall learning pie.
Right. Okay. You mentioned finance and telcos, and I think these are the people that you work with the most, right? So tell me, what are some of the concerns in this industries, and what else? I mean, should we be concerned about? So there's radio. What should we be concerned about when it comes to be future ready, to be future proof? Yeah.
Correct. I think the number one thing we got to is how do we use technology better?
Mm,
Yeah? By, let's say, each one of us has to use, the simple analogy is, let's go back, when the steam engine was introduced.
mm,
Prior to the steam engine, we used to use horse carriages, right? So if you were to go from Johor to Malacca, maybe the horse will go, it will take us maybe a whole day, yeah? And
mm,
the horse gets tired, you pause, you give him or her some meal, and then you continue the journey. And then came the steam engine.
right.
Suddenly, you could travel the whole distance in an hour and a half, you could be comfortable, and it changed the way you traveled, right?
Mm,
Today, technologies are changing similarly the way we work. If
mm,
you and I don't use technology and augment ourselves by 200%, I think we'll be irrelevant.
right.
So the number one rule is, can we leverage technology to create an exponential impact in our respective daily work?
Mm,
When I go back to my boss and say I need a 10% increment, it is not enough for me to do a 10% productivity improvement. I need to do a 100% productivity improvement using technology. That means, can I use a chatbot to automate everything I do and therefore use my time to do something else?
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. And you can see it. I think banks are the best example.
mm,
The biggest winners in the last 3 years, maybe if you ask me, are the banks. They've
right.
done an incredibly great job. We
Right.
don't show up at the bank anymore. 98% of
Right.
everything that you do in the bank is done online.
Right.
And uh, I think, so I think good transitions have happened as well.
Right. And of course, then from there, new roles have appeared. Right.
Correct.
We don't need the teller, so much of the teller anymore, but then new roles have come about. Hi, John. And John said, yes, data is so important for upfront prediction and forecast. Which is exactly what Twinbit does. Right. Yeah. And if you have any questions or comments, right, ask Manoj.
I
Okay.
love it. Ask some
bring it
difficult questions.
bring it on, right? Okay, now so Charles Darwin said it's not the strongest of the species that survives, right? Nor the most intelligent, it's the one that's most adaptable to change. Okay, so how, like, people are just resistant to change, right? So it's sort of like, do you then in this process introduce what's current, whether it's through gaming and that sort of thing, and you don't realize that you are changing and developing in the process.
Yeah, I think you have to become uncomfortable to improve, to
Mm,
learn, right? So even just taking it back to myself, uh, now that I'm in Twinbit, I'm on an entrepreneurial journey. It's almost like opening the door, and and the room is pitch black, and I'm walking in not knowing what is in. So just that courage to have that, being
Right.
adaptive to that, to evolve, I think is important. So and companies are doing it in a variety of different ways,
Right.
and they're getting very good at it. Number one, what companies do is they go and acquire other companies,
Mm-hmm.
smaller companies. That is a great source of talent that
Right.
helps them move down that path. Second, many organizations usually tout and say, oh, my leadership team has been in the company 20 plus years. They're very stable. I think that's a wrong thing to
Mm,
boast about, because they're very stable means you have not infused challenges. You have not brought in new people with new skills to
mm,
challenge their way of thinking. So we got to bring in newer levels of leadership, etc. to come. Third is maybe how do we incubate new ideas into the business?
right.
So can you create a sandbox environment where you can go out and play and let some young entrepreneurs within the organization? So these are some of the things that companies are doing to become adaptable to the change
Right.
and work towards that process.
Right. Okay. Now the other thing is I want to talk about collaboration, right? Collaboration is innovation. What's your view on this?
Yeah. So the single biggest change in the last 4 or 5 years is partnerships are the way to drive growth and success.
Hmm.
Every organization needs to learn how you can partner to grow.
Okay.
No company in this world can do everything by themselves end to end, right?
Mm,
So if you look at the most valuable company in the world, be it Microsoft, be it Google, be it Apple, all of these are the most valuable.
mhm.
Why do they thrive? They thrive because they have developed the best partnership model. They created a platform. You and I, like LinkedIn is a platform.
Right.
We are all going and putting our stuff and making their platform better, aren't we? So
Yeah.
we are contributing to their success through that partnership, and we use it because they're giving us some benefit.
Right.
So how do you create that partnership ethos
Right.
between other organizations and help them succeed? Be genuine in helping your partners succeed. Many a time these large existing organizations, they start, what is in it for me? And
Mm,
they suffocate the partnership. They don't let those small and medium businesses thrive, and
mm,
therefore they don't succeed. So I think learning how to partner and learning to create those win-win partnerships is supremely important to succeed. So that's what makes these big companies so valuable, because
mm.
they understand the spirit of partnership, the spirit of generosity in making those partnerships work,
Right.
which I think many of us don't understand. So it's a fabulous question. I think there should be regular conversations in organizations and
Mm,
partnerships, and how well are we doing it.
mm. Right. Okay. Right. Just sitting down, like, who do you think we can partner with, right? And who has, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Firstly, how much of our revenues are coming from partners?
Mm,
Yeah. How much of our revenue, if it is less and less, means it's worrying sign. The
right.
first question is, how much of my revenues are coming from partners? Second is, how am I enabling these partners to succeed and
Mm,
grow? Are they growing? Are they profitable? Right?
mm,
One of the big mega trends of this last 3 4 years is the move away from shareholder centricity to stakeholder centricity, right? So it all started with about 200 odd CEOs of the biggest companies in the US.
mhm.
There was this thing called business roundtable. They
Right.
all got together and they signed a memorandum of understanding
Mm,
saying that we will move from being shareholder centric to being stakeholder centric. Now,
right.
what does that mean? In the past, the way you measure the success of a business is how much revenue, how much profit.
Yeah.
That is only thing that we cared about. Now they are saying is, oh, we will treat all stakeholders in equal measure: customers, employees, partners, society, and customers, employees, and investors.
Right.
These five.
Right.
And what do I mean? That means a shareholder is as important as a partner.
Right.
That means if I'm so worried about the shareholder, I should be as worried about the partner. I
Right.
treat him with that same level of respect, the same level of transparency. I make
Right.
sure he is happy, right?
Mm.
So I think that is a, I think that is what the
Mindset.
world's best companies are doing.
Right.
So if you go to a PNG, they are working towards making their partners successful. Unilever,
Right.
IBMs of this world, they are investing heavily to be make sure that they are transparent and and conscious of making partners, employees, customers equally successful.
I like that, right? Equally successful, because when you
Equally
only, right?
successful.
Because you only think, I mean, like how it used to be, shareholder seems to be the only one of importance. But if you want to be relevant, they don't work in silo, right? It's got to be no point. You think these figures are great, but if your employees are not happy, that will be reflected down the road anyway, right?
Correct. Over a
Yeah.
period of time, obviously this is a big mega trend. This is not something, no matter what happens, the stock price of a company today still is largely driven by shareholder return. Yeah, because that's the human psyche. We won't change that quickly. So, so, so it will be there. But future, if you are building an organization for the future, if you are a leader who is talking about being that winner in 2030, then I think you are working towards building a stakeholder-centric business.
Right. I had a comment, a question here about Lou Gusner, but you sort of addressed it about he wrote this book called "Who Says Elephants Can't Dance," right? And of course, he transformed the company then, and that's the thing, right? How do large organizations make that change? And
Yeah,
it's a constant thing, right? Because you look at what I know, I was with IBM at the time, and that transformation that happened, and and it has to be continuous, because right now,
yeah,
as I look at IBM, whether it's continued to evolve, that's another
yeah,
thing as well,
yeah.
right?
It's a and we thought that these companies can't, but I can give you. So I did a study with my colleagues. We said the world's best transformation stories, right? Companies we thought could never change. Let's I can go through it very quickly one by one. Let's start with the first biggest change, Microsoft. Yeah. If you go back 2013, 2014, Microsoft had acquired Nokia. It was not looking exciting. The share price was like $35 odd. Uh, Satya Nadella comes in and he changes that company, completely transform. It's now one of the top three most valuable companies through culture, through a better purpose. He just rehashed that purpose a bit and says today Microsoft is about enabling every company in this planet achieve more or something
Right.
along those
Right.
lines,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Disney did equally better. Disney, you and I know Disney as watching, Marvel movies or Pixar, right? And
Yeah.
what Disney realized is, oh, so much of my content is going on Netflix. Netflix is becoming so much more valuable. What do I do? How do I
Right.
compete? So what did Disney do? They went and acquired a small company which had a streaming platform, slowly turned off all the Netflix content, and then they started their own platform.
Right.
And today Disney has got over
Mm.
120, 130 million customers. So what a great story of keeping
Mm.
pace. If you take Malaysia, I am a big fan of Maybank. I think even Air Asia,
Mm.
they're it's relatively easy for all the other challenges that Air Asia faces. It's got a fairly good digital platform. So there are some fabulous examples of companies. The banks have done the best job in transforming and being adaptive to the change.
Right, right. Although and it's very challenging, right? From large organizations, and then if you, and legacy systems, I know that's the big one they have to change as well. So you mentioned earlier, if you were to remove innovation, you use the word partnerships. I also want to ask, what just something you said about Satya, right? And how he made that transfer. And I've read Satya's story about how having to raise two kids. Um, and he humanized the organization because of what he had to go through personally. And I think
Yeah,
that's the part, right, where we talk about data analytics and everything, but we also sometimes have to get to the heart
yeah,
of heart of change, the heart of transformation, right? And that's getting, how do you then still connect with your employees? I'm just, obviously we're
yeah.
having this event about leisure, how do we then connect with them? So then I think this is what as well the millennials want to join, right? Companies that have a
Purpose.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you communicate the purpose,
Mm.
right? So it's not about, maybe when we started our careers, it was really about putting food on the table, making sure we have livelihood.
Mm.
But this next generation in many countries, they're seeking a bigger purpose than
Yeah.
that. So you need to address the purpose. And there are a lot of things that, when you make this transition as a company, why do we like to work with startups? Why are startups so attractive
Mm,
to the younger generation?
mm,
Because their purpose is very clear. They're
mm,
communicating the purpose, saying, yeah, I want to disrupt that. And it's a purpose. Everybody's saying, let me join that purpose.
mm,
So big companies have to share the purpose. So what did Satya do? And I say this to all corporate leaders. Mostly CEOs publish a book after they retire.
right,
But Satya Nadella published a book 2 years into his job.
right,
Because why? He wants to communicate with all stakeholders,
right.
saying, hey, this is the new Microsoft.
Mm,
Come, join my purpose.
mm,
Help me. You know?
mm, mm,
So the importance of communicating that effectively and taking people on that course. Uh,
right. And that's leadership, right? And I know they're going to be in Malaysia July 21st for the Malaysia Leadership Summit. And okay, just before that, this is actually going to be my last question. If anybody has any questions, feel free. But what will you be sharing on July 21st? And I'll share the link at later. But what will you be sharing then?
Yeah, so really excited to work together with Roshan and Leadernomics. And this is part of the work that we are doing with Together We Can Change the World.
Mm,
So the summit is future. The theme for this year is future of work, inspire, innovate, influence.
mm,
Now, when you think about the future of work, there are, everybody categorizes that into three distinct components.
mm,
One is the nature of work is changing. Second is the place of work itself,
mm,
hybrid. How do we make these new models work? What is the best model? And the third is the workforce. We
mm,
need to upskill the teams. We need to attract new people. So we want to address these three things. And
right.
there are some world-class speakers. So while I'm providing the context with how this whole landscape is changing, we are super thrilled that we have some world-class speakers who will talk about, hey, how is the future of sales changing? How is the
Mm,
future of virtual engagement changing? How is the future of empathetic learning changing?
mm,
Right. So that's what we are super excited. I think do join us, and
yeah,
we are happy to collaborate. And if there are some suggestions on what you think we should be covering, we would
right,
love to do that as well. The
right.
emphasis is on how can we help, as you said, executives and teams be the best they can be, and over the next 3, 4, 5 years, and succeed in their work.
Right. Yeah, and of course, actually, a lot of people don't know this. Some of the funds raised will be actually be given to a cause that
Correct.
enables refugees to work. But that's something on the side. But I'm
Correct.
very excited. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, Manoj. And thanks for
Same here.
spending your Saturday morning before you go running.
Oh, no, no problem at all. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
And of course, if anybody has any questions for Manoj, you can just put it down. Even if you're watching this later, just tag Manoj, and I'm sure he'll be able to address it. If not, you can meet him in Malaysia on July 21st. So on that note, have a wonderful weekend and take care.
Thank you very much, Frida. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.